Hello, Michelle from Stampin' Time. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I want to show you how to make this Partridge in a Pear wreath card. Being July, Christmas in July is a perfect time to start getting cards ready for later in the year. I made this card for a colour challenge on a Facebook group called Colour Inkspiration. It's actually a current challenge at the moment. So I thought I'd show you how I made it and the different tips and tricks that go with making a card like this. Firstly, let me show you the bundle that I used. And this is in the new catalogue, the latest annual catalogue from Stampin' Up. So you have the Arrange a Wreath photopolymer stamp set and the coordinating wreath builder dies. Now the dies don't normally come packaged like this. They come in a plastic pocket, and I like to then create my own cover, pop it inside one of Stampin' Up's standard, the word will come to me in a moment, standard stamp cases, and I just use some adhesive magnetic sheets to pop those in. Actually, the pairs are, there we go. So as you can see from this photopolymer set, there are quite a few in here, and there's 21 in total, 21 dies. Fortunately, the pears, the hearts, and the eggs come as a duo, which makes it so much easier for stamping and die cutting. The partridge that obviously I'll be using today as well, and lots of other elements in there. And I've done a lot of my pre-cutting already just to make that a bit easier. And in a similar way, the pears, the hearts, and the eggs in the stamps are also joined together just to make that a faster process. So put those to one side until I'm ready to start stamping. Now, let me get some card stock ready. My base today is going to be a basic black. This is one of the extra colours we were able to use for the challenge. And if you haven't watched me before, the first thing you'll notice is I use my Stampin' Trimmer, paper trimmer upside down. I know that seems very strange. I like to have the cardstock close to me and the measurements where I can see them very easily. I've also popped some double-sided tape underneath the measures on the lifting arm, again, just so I can see those numbers more easily. Now, US and Canada crafters use a slightly different size card base, whereas the rest of the Stampin' Up markets in South Pacific and Europe use an A4 size. Now, the problem I find with A4 is while it's 8¼ inches across, the length of the cardstock is actually 11 11/16, and I'm not very good at converting that into centimetres, but I can tell you that it is a touch under 11.4 centimetres. So I find that just a bit weird for cutting and getting exactly in half. So what I do is I actually drop my measurement, I drop it down to 11½ inches in length. So all I'm doing is taking off this tiny little strip of the cardstock, but now that means I can do all of my layered mats much more easily. I've got a poor old, need to type this up and make it nice and neat and tidy. I do rewrite this from time to time once I've done too many notes on it. But essentially it means I can, notes about my face cam, Facebook and Minicam default from some issues I had last week. This particular one, it means, so when I cut it, I'm cutting it down from 11½ by 8¼ and cutting it down to 5¾ by 8¼ and I tend to work with a portrait style card. So 4 1/8. Pop that one to one side. And then I just take down all my measurements. I just go down by 1/8 of an inch, and I've just got all those layers nice and easy, quick and easy to work with. So there's my card base. So on my original card, you can see I've put the mats on at different angles. For this card today, I'm just going to do nice and standard, everything nice and parallel, and we'll get started on that. So I have these all cut and ready to go. And when I'm adhering so I was just looking for that lipped edge from when I cut the cardstock. So when you're cutting, if you didn't already know this, I'm sure most of you do, when you cut using a trimmer, you get the lovely cut down edge there, but on the reverse side, and I'm not sure that you're going to be able to see it, there's a little lip. So I always try to make sure I pop glue, place the glue down on that side. It would be just as easy to use a bone folder to put that down. I think I need a new glue. And when I'm layering my mats, my mat layers, I like to use the multi-purpose glue because it allows me that little bit of time to position the mat so I'm happy with the borders I have around the edges and that I've got things nice and parallel. I'm not going to be putting any dimensionals under my mat layers today. I will be putting some dimensionals, popping the sentiment up, the Christmas greeting, the season's greetings, and I'll be doing using some dimensionals to help pop up elements of the wreath as well. So again, a nice little bit of wiggle room, to get that nice and even. So I'm wondering if anyone else has started making their Christmas cards yet. There are certainly so many amazing designs already on Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, YouTube, using all of the current Christmas papers and stamp sets. But of course, the really exciting news is that from the 1st of August, the new August to December mini catalogue will be going live. So that's very exciting. Right, phase 1 done. That is so super quick and easy. I will be stamping the Partridge again and popping that on the insert for the card, and of course onto the envelope. No naked envelopes permitted. I have already die cut all the elements. I've used some of the cinnamon cider A4 cardstock to cut out one wreath layer. I've cut the same, using the same die, twice in vellum, and I've got a couple of layers of this beautiful berry and round sort of leaf style. Oops, I'm going to get caught. Be cautious with those. Oh no, there we go. I'll be doing some colouring very shortly. Now, let's stamp our pears and our partridge. So in some of my other Facebook Lives and possibly my last, my very first YouTube tutorial, I showed people how, one side for a minute, how if I was wanting to die cut something, I would stamp the image first, and then pretend that's do that. Stamp it. I'd pop this little template over the top of the stamped image onto one of the acrylic platforms and the magnetic platform for the big shot, and wait until that holds into place. Take out the die that I would need and fit the die down into that space. So when I'm happy with the amount of white space around the stamped image, I would pop that into there, pop the second acrylic plate on top, and then run it through the big shot. Now, when I showed that technique once recently, I did have a lovely lady leave a comment for me, and I thought, that is such a clever idea. So excuse me, tickle throat. So this time I'm going to use her technique. So what you do is you cut out several, or die cut out several of your shapes that you want, and then use the template on your Stamparatus. And that way you'll be able to stamp lots of images really quickly. So before I pop those in, I'm going to pop the excuse me, stamp into place. And pop those in. That's super cute, they just stay on there. Okay, so they are quite dark, and as you can see from my original, I did them a little bit lighter. So the second ones I'm going to use, I'll be using Crumb Cake, which was one of the colours in the challenge. And I think I have a pair, oh, there it is. One of my pairs decided it preferred to be on the floor. Okay, so I'll put the cinnamon cider away. So of course, cinnamon cider is one of the new 2020 to 2022 in colours, which is lovely. Just give them a little clean. Crumb Cake. And they look good. They will do today. And then we will do the same with, put that to one side and clean that up a little bit later. Cinnamon cider again. So there are lots of really clever things that we can do with Stamparatus. And so we have Partridge. And this time I'm going to just use this second generation of colour, and then I can decide a little bit later which one I want to use. So I'll just pop the Stamparatus to one side. I'm not going to need it again. And it's time to start some colouring. Now, because I've got vellum, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to use my Stampin' Blends. So the Real Red is one of the colours in the challenge that I wanted to use, and I've used it in one of the mattes, so I'm going to use this to pick up some colour. So this is the dark. And I've tended to go on the outside. So I've treated the last leaf on each stem as being a bit like a berry. Now, if I'm very clever, I will try and teach myself how to do a fast forward, so this doesn't take so long. So there's the first one. Okay. One of very, very good things about our grid paper is that it ensures that we don't have complete mess on our working space. And I actually have a protective mat underneath my grid paper as well, just so I know that I won't get any inks on my lovely new desk. So perhaps soon I might do, when I finish sorting out my new crafting space, and I get everything tidied up, I might do a quick video just to show you my space. The desk is actually attached to a bookcase, and the table collapses, the desk collapses, and then I can release the bookcase and swivel it around. I don't have to take anything off my bookcase, which is just as well because I have all my stamp sets and lots of crafting goodies on there. Turn it around, lock it into place, and then we have a pull down Murphy bed. So I actually have my desk here, my bookcase there, and around the other side is a Murphy bed, which is very clever indeed, I think. Now I'm going to use some mini glue dots to help put all this together. And the beautiful thing is, because there are so many layers of vellum, that you won't see the mini glue dots between them. Now, I'm going to find the beginning. Okay, so I'm just going to pop, if I just get rid of that. So I'll use 3 or 4 glue dots on each of the layers. Bring this down, and I'm building this up towards the top, and then I'll be able to go through later and use my bone folder just to encourage those leaves to pop up a little bit. And then I just want to make sure I'm offsetting. Oops, come back. Make sure I offset. I don't want to layer things in exactly the same place. And I can move each of the layers down backwards and forwards a little bit. So I'll use this one. Three should be enough for that one. And I know I have 3 of the coloured wreaths here. I may not use all of them yet. We'll see how it looks once we have 2 layers in there. So I am very pleased that we have dies that coordinate with elements from the stamps, because although this is not a stamped image, can you imagine fussy cutting something as complex and intricate as this? Okay. I think another layer might be too much. So I'll pop that aside, use that on another card, and just see if there's anywhere I need to just pop another mini glue dot just to hold things in place. Give it a bit of a scrunch. Lovely. Okay, that one there. I like the way that it's so easy to come back in and just pop another little element in there like that. Okay, now let's go and use some mini glue dots, mini dimensionals, and so popping these up. I know we've got quite a bit of height there now with our wreath. Put this one up and over the top. Put the stem in the opposite direction. And because I didn't stamp that as well as I could have, or I didn't go back and re-stamp it, I'm still going to use it because I'm just going to pop that in under there, and no one is the wiser. One more on the other side. Now, even though I have 4 pairs, I have 1 on one side, 3 on the other, and I still have 2 separate uneven numbers. I do like my rule of 3 and rule of uneven numbers for presentation. It's just aesthetic, it's more aesthetically pleasing. Now, I have my 2 partridges, and I think for that one, my partridge is a little bit too close in colour to the pears, so I will use this lighter one. And even though it looks a little bit just nestle him in there a little bit. I'd like him off to one side. So I'm just going to okay. So even though this is a video tutorial, mine will never be what some people call clean, because there will be little oops and there'll be noises, and Michelle will do strange sounds, and it works for me. Okay, pretty. Next quick step. I want to use some clear Wink of Stella. I'll use that shortly. I do need to, just realised I didn't colour some of these on the inside. So I'm just going to create some little pops of colour, just carefully making sure I don't put any of the red on top of anything else. Just lifting up her tail feathers. Okay, that will do very nicely. Now let's tie a bow, and so realistically, unless you want to see me do a bunny ear bow, my bows are never very good, but I do like to be able to use a kitchen fork. So I go left, see this? The left goes across to the right, down below on the lower side. The right hand piece of the ribbon goes in between the middle tines, and this is where you get to see I'm all thumbs. Okay. If I want it a bit bigger, I can just take it down to where it's wider. I want this to be quite a small bow. So I'm going to take what's now in my left hand up and over the top, tie a single knot, and pull tight. Now, because this bow I want, can't even see it, sorry. Okay, I want the tail of the bow to come down a little bit. So what I'll do is, as I tighten the bow, I will pull them down. Pull it tight, pull them down. If I was doing a bow and then wrapping it around my cardstock, I'd pull these out to the side and make sure they align nicely that way. Okay, walk away, grab another mini glue dot. Pop that at the base of one of the bows, one of the pears, and they didn't actually go down very well at all. There we go. Let's give it a little tug. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm just counting down the stitches. Try not to trim the branches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and cut it. Okay. And there we have the main part of our card. So let's do our season's greetings. Actually, I think I'll use use the season's greetings from one of our other stamp sets, but I think today what I'll do is I'll use the Merry Christmas from the range A WREATH. So find that. Pop that up onto a stamp block, an acrylic block. My poor old blocks need a clean at the moment. Okay, so we'll get some piece of white cardstock for stamping. And real red is one of those lovely, lovely Christmas colours. What's your favourite Christmas colour? I know some people prefer cherry cobbler. I just realised it's a bit dirty at that end, so I'll do that again. Somehow I've managed to get a few marks along that edge, so I'll just move that up a little bit. And I will use my stitched rectangles. I thought they were up on my shelf, but they're here in front of me because I use my stitched rectangles loads of times. Okay. Now I have a lot of white space down here, and the season's greetings is obviously larger, but I think what I might do is no, I won't do that. I think I might stamp a pear onto there. So I'll cut it that way. And then I'll use the next size up to cut the piece of cinnamon cider. Next size. So I'll just pop those out of the way. I'll just bring across my big shot, which very soon will be replaced by a Stampin' Up Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. I'm very excited to be finding out about that, getting one of those very shortly. Okay. Try and position that so it's nice and straight. Now I'm hoping the camera doesn't wobble too much, so I'll go a bit slowly. If not, just hold on tight. Finish wobbling soon. There. And my desk was so tidy to begin with. Now I need to find what I've done with my piece of cinnamon cider. Okay, grab that piece. Oh, it's definitely a wobbly one. Now that one didn't do a lovely neat cut. So what I'm going to do is I'll angle it slightly. Cut this away so I can position the die differently so that as it goes through, just make sure that's locked in, pop it at an angle, and that will sometimes help you get a nice clean cut. Beautiful, that's exactly what I wanted. Okay. So, put my platform, my bottom platform's away. Back in here. Okay. So for the backing, the mat that I did for this card, I actually went back in and positioned the die so that I would, should be nice even borders, so that I could cut that down and make that smaller. For this card, I'm not going to do that. I thought I'd just have a look and do something a little different. But let's stamp stamp the pears. I would normally have a bundle of post-it notes close by to use. Mine seem to have disappeared. So I will come in, I'm just going to mask this half of the card, or this part of the card, stamp down. So as you can see, the second pair has gone onto the post-it, and there we go. That looks quite cute. We'll glue this onto here. Pop it on to here, nice and evenly. I've actually managed to get the tiniest little bit of the crumb cake ink onto there, so I'll have to think of a way to resolve that very shortly. Some more dimensionals. We'll pop our managed to make quite a mess on this part of the desk. Okay. I always pop one in the centre as well. I could put 2 there, but 5 would be more than enough on this one. And for this card, I'll pop this over on the right hand side, on the left hand side. Nice even border of Whisper White. Okay. And we'll stamp our it's a bird, our partridge. When I'm just, you can see I've made a complete mess on this desk, and I could not tell you for the life of me where my partridge is hiding. It's okay. So I'll show you what I will be stamping. So I'll stamp our partridge a second time. when I find it, or alternately, I can glue down my second partridge that I die cut and stamped earlier, just so we see it done. A little bit of Wink of Stella, just gives a bit of bling. Not sure how well you can see that. See if I can zoom in a bit for you. Just gives it a lovely little bit of sheen. And our little partridge needs a bit of bling too. So Real Red, Crumb Cake, Cinnamon Cider, Whisper White were the main colours for this particular colour challenge. And we were allowed to use black as well. The only thing to be mindful of course, when you're using Wink of Stella with the classic stamp pads is that the colour could run a little bit as it has done there. Glue that on the inside. Again, make sure the insert's going in the right way around. Give yourself a little bit of time to adjust for the border so you've got everything nice and straight, neat and tidy. And you'll have stamped your envelope as well. And there we have two Partridge in a Pear wreath cards for Christmas. Thank you so much for joining me.